What if your child's future could be as bright as our Arizona sun? Discover Peoria Unified, where every student, every day is prepared to shape tomorrow. Peoria Unified is more than just a school district. We are your community school district, where each child receives a high-quality education rooted in the values that our families share. Can you imagine an education tailored to your child's unique dreams and needs? We make it a reality. Secure your child's spot today at peoriaunified.org/enroll.
Students from across the district come here to Old Main, right in the heart of the Peoria Unified School District. Built in 1922, it was refurbished and is now an incredible place for learning. The Met Professional Academy focuses on medical engineering, technology, bioscience, and global business. And it is a really unique approach to learning that allows students to really immerse themselves in their learning, but also partner with industry leaders in order to really apply what they're learning and take it out into the real world in a way that sets these students apart from any others. They focus on some of those professions-based skills and professional skill development in a way that is unlike an educational experience you will see anywhere else. They take that learning and they are alongside a mentor, they are alongside a business leader. Sometimes they are even outside of the classroom and they are applying that learning alongside business partners. Students in this program come from any of the high schools in the Peoria Unified School District. We provide transportation for them to get here. They're able to spend half of their day in their home high school and taking those core classes. And then they come here to the Met Professional Academy and they are able to really truly immerse themselves in one of those strands, focus deeply on that learning. Students in the Met Professional Academy tell us that they are receiving really an experience that other students aren't receiving through other classes that they're taking around the valley. So they are going on to college classes, often entering right at the top of the class. They are able to work on different projects and learn new skills with a confidence that they may not otherwise have had they not been a part of this program. The student experience is one that is very collaborative. It's very hands-on. Students aren't just sitting in the classroom having an instructor deliver the lesson for the day. They are up and learning, they're engaging with their peers, they're engaging alongside leaders and industry partners. Oftentimes they have guest speakers, they're practicing their public speaking skills, and so they are often even having the opportunity to go out and see what those industry leaders are doing. It wouldn't be uncommon for a student to be paired alongside a physician or even a surgeon taking part in what is observing a surgery that's taking place. Oftentimes they may be out at an engineering site actually looking at some of that civil engineering work that is being done by those engineering leaders. For anyone interested in the Met Professional Academy, the best place to start is our website. So you can check us out online, you can explore all the different strands and all the different opportunities here at the Met Professional Academy. You can also sign up to take a tour and learn more about how you can become a mentor to support some of the students who are going through the program.
Are you ready for your child to dive into learning? Peoria Unified's Excel Preschool is where big futures begin with our littlest learners. In a warm, caring environment led by certified teachers and dedicated instructional assistants, your child will learn, grow, and play. With highly rated preschool programs, you can trust that your child is receiving the best early education possible. Don't wait. Enroll today and dive into learning with Peoria Unified. Visit peoriaunified.org/preschool to learn more.
The CTE program has been extremely important for my development throughout high school. Without it, I wouldn't have found my passion for firefighting, and I'd probably still be kind of lost in terms of my future. And I'm just really grateful that I had this opportunity to find out what I really have a passion for and what I want to do in the future. All of our teachers are firefighters themselves, and they really care about building us up and building the future of the career through us. It just makes you feel like you matter, like you can make a difference.
One thing I discovered through the work-based learning program was I have to be flexible and work with the kids on their schedule, not just my own. That really sets me up for success, not just in my future classrooms in college, but in the real world too.
Through this program, I've learned a lot about Microsoft Excel, and the skills I've gained from that, I've been able to apply on the job, as well as in 2 weeks, I'm taking my Excel certification test, so it's really prepared me for that. I interned with them for about 4 months. Once the semester ended and my class finished, they asked if I wanted a job here. I really love working here because I'm not just getting high school level coursework, I'm really getting hands-on experience. When I finish college, I'll have 5 years of industry experience while my other peers might just be getting into it.
Other students should enroll in the CTE classes because they're just so much different than your ordinary classes. You're not sitting behind a desk and taking notes. You're getting up, you're actually doing labs and stuff. When it comes to film, every week you're going out, you're filming something new. You're just constantly up and doing things, and it's definitely different and more fun than like the regular class structure.
I got an internship here at Liberty Wildlife, and we're working on a VR simulation project that mimics the orphan care facility that they have here at Liberty Wildlife. I've been working with like a group of 4 students, and we've merged our skills together, and it really just drove my passion towards designing this VR simulation that we have today. I'm excited what the future holds for me, and I feel like this experience has helped me be hopeful that I could do great things in the future too.
My goal as a freshman was to have a consistent 4.0, but also have hands-on experience. And so that's where I took the construction classes. I took those, and then I got invited to the internship, and it's honestly been a blessing being able to do it. And the job site behind me, some of that veneer I placed myself, and I laid it myself. One thing, I can recommend for CTE is the hands-on experience you can get, because most people learn by doing. You can't just expect to be good at something. You've got to do it 30 times to even be good at it. But that hands-on experience is very important.
It's my world.
It's my future.
It's my plan.
I have a story to tell.
Good evening, everybody. We are going to call the Peoria Unified Special Board Meeting to order on May 5th, 2026 at 6:14 p.m. All board members are present. Moving on to 2 opening exercises, 2.1 Moment of Silence, Pledge of Allegiance, and Preamble of the Declaration of Independence. Mr. Toby, would you like to lead us this evening?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Moving on to 3 action items. 3.1, call to the public, discussion and possible action to elect a governing board president pursuant to ARS 15-321B and governing board policy 1-103. This was requested, presented by Mrs. Becky Proudfit, board clerk, and Mrs. Melissa Ewing, board member. So first we will have public comment on this line item. You will have 3 minutes. When I call your name up, you may come up to the podium and a timer will start. First public comment comes from Devin Mosler.
Good evening, Governing Board. As educators, our most important job is to keep students safe. Like everyone in this room, we are shaken by the details emerging from the police investigation at Centennial High School. The behavior described in the police report has absolutely no place in schools, and the alleged perpetrators named in the police report are not members of our union, and we are not involved in their case. We are deeply disgusted with a member of our governing board who is exploiting this incident for political grandstanding. Right now, Peoria needs all of our governing board members to put politics aside and avoid any measures that could potentially impede the ongoing investigation. Our district needs leaders who are focused on guiding our district through this challenging time, not a political or politician focused on creating a media circus by publicly disparaging our district and causing distrust in our administration, staff, or local police for that matter. A true leader sets aside their personal gains or recognition to focus on the success of others. They lift others up, listen, and value differing perspectives, and remain humble enough to take accountability for their failures rather than deflect and reframe them as somehow heroic. A true leader motivates through vision, trust, and encouragement, not fear or coercion. Our families, students, and educators are traumatized and need time to heal. Unfortunately, the recent actions by President Rooks has deepened the wounds and caused more harm to our community at a time when we desperately need stability and support. Therefore, I call on this board to remove Heather Rooks from any board leadership role.
Next public comment comes from Josh Gray.
Point of order, President Rooks. The clapping is going to take us all night to be here.
Okay,
so
please.
And we can't hear when they're clapping.
Yes, we do have 21 speakers, so if you could please refrain from the clapping so we can continue moving forward. Josh Gray.
All right. Good evening, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. It's been a while since I've been able to come here and speak, and I'd say that I missed it, but that'd be a lie. I'm here today because President Brooks has proven time and time again to be untrustworthy and believes that rules just don't apply to her. So let's just get into it.
Back in 2022, when still a candidate, Heather Rooks tried to place a restraining order against myself for comments that other people made online. I was quickly able to get that lifted and squashed, but it demonstrated the lengths that she would go to silence anyone who spoke out against her. Her time on the board has been mired in scandal, from disregarding legal advice to being sued for harassment herself. The whole experience can probably just be summed up as a dumpster fire. I mean, I've never seen another board member in any other school district need their own personal lawyer to attend board meetings because of lawsuits. Things didn't get better when Heather was elected president. The district's rating has fallen, and scandal after scandal has frankly pushed our district into infamy at this point. Not all these scandals have been Heather's fault, but the responses to them have clearly demonstrated that she puts her own political aspirations above all else. I urge the board to push for new leadership, and I also request that whomever takes over immediately speak to legal counsel on any liability Heather has left them with. This district deserves better. Our students deserve better. We deserve someone that cares about student outcomes, not the outcomes of their next election. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from River Chinuni.
Good evening, members of the board. I am a parent of 2 children in this district and a former staff member. I'm here today to speak in favor of removing Heather Rooks as board president. In just a few short months, we have seen leadership that prioritizes politics over students. Major decisions, starting with rewriting the district's vision and mission, were made without any input from teachers, parents, or the broader community. At the same time, critical support systems, including social workers who help protect our most vulnerable students, have been reduced or eliminated. These are not just policy choices. They have real consequences for student safety and well-being, as we have seen. I continue to keep my children in this district because I believe deeply in the teachers, principals, and staff who serve them every single day. However, I resigned from my position last year, like many others, because I could no longer support the direction of this board from both a legal and moral standpoint. And like me, many parents in the district feel ignored because we don't share the same political views as Heather Rooks. As a school board is not a battleground for political agendas. It is a place for stewardship, for listening, and for putting students and educators first. That requires impartial leadership, and unfortunately, that standard is not being met. For these reasons, I support removing Heather Rooks as board president, and I urge consideration of either a recall election or Heather Rooks dropping out from the 2026 board election, so the community can have a voice in restoring balanced, student-centered leadership. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Wendy.
Good evening. I'm Wendy, mom to 3 girls who have all since graduated through PUSD. And I'm here today to stand in support of Heather Rooks instead of allowing the district to table an independent investigation into potential violations of mandatory reporting laws. Mrs. Rooks took decisive action by filing formal complaints with the Maricopa County Attorney and the Arizona State Board of Education. This isn't just about following procedure, it's about addressing a systemic issue that's putting our children at risk. It's about accountability and transparency. In Arizona, mandated reporters are professionals who, due to their occupation, are legally required to report suspected child or vulnerable adult abuse. For children, this includes school personnel and administrators, medical professionals, mental health professionals, child care providers, law enforcement officers, clergy members, social workers, and any person who has responsibility for the care of minors. The disturbing reality is that educator misconduct cases in Arizona are rising at an alarming rate. According to the Arizona State Board of Education's 2024 Enforcement Action Report, enforcement actions against educators skyrocketed from 172 in 2022 to 325 in 2024. That's a staggering 89% increase. Heather, thank you for standing tall. Thank you for standing up for children, and thank you for doing what's right. Let them vote you out. In the end, you will be able to stand with your head held high and know that you have the best interest of children at heart. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Nicole.
Good evening, President Rooks and members of the board. My name is Nicole Geisey, and I come to you today as a member of the PUSD community. I am concerned regarding Board President Rooks' recent statements in a news interview. While I understand and respect the right to any individual to speak as a parent, the distinction becomes blurred when the speaker is also the sitting board president. Board member ethics clearly state the responsibility to, and I quote, respect and support the majority decisions of the board. In this instant, the comments made publicly appear to contradict or undermine a decision reached by the board as a whole. Even if the intent was to speak in a personal capacity, the role of board president carries inherent authority and visibility, making it difficult for the public to separate personal views from official representation. This situation risks eroding trust in the board's unity and governance process. It also sets a concerning precedent where individual perspectives expressed publicly may conflict with established board decisions without accountability. To be clear, the concern is not the content of the comment itself, nor the personal opinion. The issue is what seems to be a breach of board member ethics. When a board member, especially the president, publicly diverges from the will of the board, it undermines the ethical commitments to support that decision once it has been made. As a parent myself, with 2 children in the school district, I am stating that our school board needs a leader who will abide by these ethics and have the ability to separate the two. That's what I'm asking the board to consider tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Next public comment comes from Jen H.
Good evening, board. I'm here tonight to ask this board to take action and remove the current board president from her leadership role. Board governance exists for a reason. No single member, especially the president, should act unilaterally, bypass district leadership, and take concerns directly to the media. That is not transparency. That's a breakdown of governance and a violation of the trust placed in this board. I want to be very clear. Every teacher and every staff member in this district wants students to be safe. When individuals commit crimes, especially those that harm children, they must be held fully accountable, and there's no disagreement there. But when investigations have been completed and law enforcement has found no wrongdoing in reporting, continuing to publicly target staff crosses a line. At that point, it's no longer accountability, it becomes harassment. And that has real consequences for the people who serve our students every day. If the president cares about all students, the care would be consistent. It would show up in her votes and her actions. It would mean supporting student services like social workers, not working for years to remove them. It would mean taking a stand on critical funding like the override our district desperately needs, not abstaining when leadership is required. And it would mean applying the same level of concern across all schools and situations. Instead, we are seeing division, inconsistency, and actions that are costing this district both financially and reputationally. Even your own board attorney advised caution and said that this matter should be tabled to avoid, or might be able to be tabled to avoid interfering with ongoing investigations, and that advice should be followed. The district deserves leadership that builds trust, not erodes it. Leadership that governs and doesn't grandstand, and leadership that unites, doesn't divide. I urge you to remove the current president from her role and allow this board to return to its true purpose, serving students, supporting staff, and leading with integrity. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Samantha Perez.
As an educator, it's drilled into our heads every year that you need to report, report, report. It is the law. We are threatened with our license, saying if we don't report in a certain amount of time, we could lose our license. We're threatened with a felony. If we don't report in time, you can get a felony, and if it's found out that there is actual abuse happening, and you don't report in a certain amount of time, that's it. So what does it tell students when students are reporting something and the principal does nothing? How many more victims are there because the principal said nothing? That is not his place. We are told it is not your job to investigate, it's your job to report. There needs to be accountability. It is unacceptable that people are coming in here trashing a woman who's standing up for our students and the safety of our students. The principal's actions were disgusting. That's disgusting. And, sorry, I'm just really, thank you.
Next public comment comes from Ramona Pop.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm here tonight because I'm deeply concerned about the recent allegations involving the grooming of a minor by 2 teachers and the reported failure of a principal to act appropriately when this information was known. Let me be clear, this is not just a personnel issue. This is about student safety, accountability, and trust. When families send their children to school, they are placing enormous trust in this district. That trust depends on one fundamental expectation, that adults in positions of authority will act immediately and responsibly to protect children. When that does not happen, the damage goes far beyond a single incident. It erodes confidence in the entire system. What is especially troubling is the response that followed. While 2 teachers have faced consequences, it appears that the administrator who allegedly failed to report the situation remains in their role. At the same time, the board is now considering removing its own president, Heather Rooks, someone who sought further investigation and accountability. That raises a serious question. Are we prioritizing protecting students or protecting the system? The decision by the board president to pursue a third-party investigation and to file a complaint with the Maricopa County Attorney Office reflects a commitment to transparency and student safety. These are not actions that should be punished, they are actions that should be expected. Accountability should not be selective. If there was a failure to report, that must be addressed directly and transparently. An independent investigation would not weaken this district. It would strengthen it by showing that student safety comes first. Many families are watching closely. Some are already questioning whether public schools can provide a safe environment for their children. And that is not a conclusion anyone should be comfortable with, but it is the reality when situations like this are not handled with clarity and urgency. I urge this board to focus on what matters most, protecting students, ensuring accountability at every level, and rebuilding trust with the community. Removing someone who sought answers sends the wrong message. Taking a hard, honest look at what went wrong sends the right one. Our children deserve better. Our community expects better. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Laura Tepeson.
At the last board meeting, the attorney trusted by the board, hired by the board, and paid with taxpayer funds, mine and the hundreds of parents I represent, Ms. Siegel stated that this matter has already been reviewed through multiple formal channels. Procedures were followed, investigations were conducted. Her direction was clear: sit back, I quote, sit back, table the matter, and let the process play out. Mr. Toby intelligently reinforced that this issue has already been extensively investigated by multiple agencies, including the county attorney. He also noted that the board has access to more information than the public through executive sessions. The board had seen the details and heard information that cannot be shared publicly. There was no justification to pursue further, and that is why the board voted in favor to table the matter. And this is where it stops making sense. The board president moved forward anyway, disregarding that vote, violating governing board ethics policy, and filing complaints that risk the integrity of investigations still underway. Frankly, it appears political. Publicity aimed at future elections, a display meant to look like leadership while assuming parents will not question it. Publicity gone wrong. But this community is paying attention this time. Parents here are informed, engaged, and expect honesty, not political theater again. In fact, hundreds of Peoria parents have called for leadership change. When a board votes to table an issue, the decision must mean something. Process is not optional. Process cannot be something we follow only when it is convenient. Especially the board president carries an elevated responsibility not to act unilaterally, but to uphold board decisions and respect due process. Leadership means respecting due process, following legal guidance, and responsibly stewarding public resources. This is about stewardship of taxpayer dollars, of due process, and of public trust. Our community, our Peoria community, expectations are simple. Follow the established framework, respect qualified authorities, and use sound judgment. And when leadership disregards that standard and undermines trust, it should not be defended. It should be replaced. I would strongly suggest, I would like to make a recommendation based on the parents I represent for daring leadership. I have a new daring leader on my books because I really trusted before and I was lured into something that was not real. I would like to suggest Mr. Jeff Toby to be our next president of Peoria Unified School District, and thank you for all you do.
Next public comment comes from Olivia Frey.
Hello, good evening. I'm a senior at Centennial High School, the school getting slandered throughout media across the nation. I have 8 days left in this district, and I'm here watching this arguing, these people using these big, strong words, disgusting. The connotation it holds is interesting. I think it's shocking that in my last 8 days, I have to be here defending the generations to come up in this district. But I have friends in this district, my little sisters in this district, and so many others. I care about the students, the staff, the administration in this district. That is what separates me from the Heather Rooks of the world. Please make a good decision when you are choosing the president tonight. Make a decision that will protect the students in the school district. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Trina Berg.
Good evening, President Rooks, members of the board, cabinet, guests. I've been here for a long time, and this is something that has never happened before. We've never had this type of controversy in our district. I spoke out against Mr. Rooks becoming president before. I wasn't able to make the meeting in January when you guys elected president and clerk this year. I'm here to support a changing of leadership in this district. I want to clarify that this is not because of this most recent decision. The most recent decision is the ultimate the straw that broke the camel's back of lots and lots and lots of decisions that have undermined this district in so many different ways. As stated earlier, like, we had one person come in and write us a whole new mission and vision statement. Like, that's not how that works. And I know, again, that seems like nothing to you, but it means something to us. Those are words that we're supposed to stand behind and believe in, and no one even asked anyone else. And when you start with something like that, and it continues and it continues and it continues until we get to this point, because nothing has happened up until now. So when you're allowed to just kind of do whatever the heck you want with no consequences, this is where we get to. This is not just because of this. But the decision was the board decision to hold off, not say no, but to table an outside investigation. That doesn't mean that the board could not bring it back in the future. It was simply a statement of, we've already had this done, we have outcomes, we have decisions that said that nothing was inappropriate. Let's just wait and see what happens. And we couldn't do that. We couldn't do that because one person decided to go on the news, and this just keeps perpetuating itself over and over and over in the media and on social media and all these other things because of the actions of some of our board. And I don't know why now all of a sudden the last couple of days I'm seeing all this like, oh, this is just the union protecting pedophiles, whatever. As stated before, like, we literally have nothing to do with this. We have not been in a single meeting when it comes to this because none of these people were members of ours. This isn't the union doing anything. Can we please stop saying that? This is not us like trying to protect perpetrators. That's not what we're trying to do at all. What we're trying to do is ask that the proper procedures be put in place. And that was happening. But now we have one person who's trying to circumvent, and that's not okay. It's literally a violation of our board policies that says you will uphold the board decision, not have your own personal agenda. And those things are not happening right now, and those things are not okay. Again, this is a culmination of lots of things. We need new leadership because what is happening right now, this is not okay. We cannot continue like this. This is tarnishing this amazing district that we so much support. We have got to stop, put the brakes on, let the process continue. Please vote in new leadership so we can make a starting point and go forward from here. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Becky Smith.
Hello. In domestic violence situations, the police must arrest and charge someone because victims will not always press charges against their abuser or stand up for themselves. So we make these safeguards for adults, and now that it's involving a child, there's so many people that can't understand that the mandating reporting laws are pretty much those for children to protect children who are being victimized and may not be able to stand up for themselves or feel like when they do, they're not being heard. We're all lost on where the proof is that when the principal first was made aware by a student that he immediately contacted the police department, because I have yet to see that happened, but maybe I'm wrong. The law clearly states that he is required to do so. As far as I've been told, it wasn't until 5 months later that the grandmother reported it to police. So that's where the disconnect is. I feel like we're all very unclear on how this happened. If the details were given and the principal did not go directly to police as the law states, that's where the disconnect is. There's even a recent graduate of Centennial stating online that none of the students' voices were heard when these concerns were brought up. There is such a thing as an incomplete or a bad investigation, as police are human. They make mistakes. They might not find things or oversee things. As far as I've heard, the investigation didn't include interviewing nearby teachers to see if they may have seen or heard anything that was suspicious or inappropriate, or the SRO at the school or other staff on campus to find out if this was as well known as it is now being said that it was. Heather requesting that the county attorney do her own investigation results in filling this boardroom. Where was all this outrage when this came out in the news? This boardroom was not full when the teachers came out in the news. This was not full. Heather's being called disgusting. Meanwhile, the teachers are the people who did something disgusting. So it's just weird to me that this is what it takes to fill a boardroom. The scandals that have been recently in PUSD are not what Heather created. They're directly linked to people being inappropriate with students in this district. And this is all backwards to me, and I just don't understand it. And I guess everyone's also forgetting that the district did have a meeting not too long ago sharing how academics have increased under this board and the measures that they have taken to put the focus back on education. And everyone just can't get past always bringing up politics and thinking that's the only reason she's here. And I'm telling you she's not. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Sarah West.
Good evening. Board President Rooks, Dr. Summers, Cabinet, community members. I'm a parent here to speak in favor of removal of Heather Rooks as board president and not considered for any leadership role. Even prior to this most recent media decision that Heather Rooks made, and undermining the will of the board and trust of the district under her leadership, the trust has tanked. Trust is very important. There's a lot of things at stake here. I come from a leadership background. I take this very seriously. And I just believe that all of our school district stakeholders immediately need and deserve better. I also want to take the rest of this time to just voice appreciation for the community speaking up, rallying for action, and for Clerk Proudfit and Board Member Ewing for listening to the community and taking the Code of Ethics policy seriously. We ask that you keep partisan politics out of our kids' district. We are excited for the positive impact that can be made here tonight by a change of leadership in the board, not to include Heather Rooks. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Shamrell Bolster.
Good evening, President Rooks, board, cabinet, and all guests here. Why are we here tonight? It's because we have a board that has allowed a situation with President Rooks to escalate to this point. We as a community have warned you publicly and privately that we have a toxic board member. So here we are. We know Mrs. Rooks does not ascribe to a code of ethics. She publicly stated that a year ago, January, where she said all she needed was the Constitution and the law. And we see where that has gotten us. Along with that, I have a copy of the ethics that so many other people have shared tonight. Although I cannot just single her out, I have seen this ethic policy violated with other members of the board throughout the last year and a half. The other thing is, as a result of this, we have lost faith, trust, and respect for the board. So now, what are you going to do moving forward to repair the damage done to the district and to ensure that this never happens again? Listening to the community is going to be crucial for the upcoming things that we have on the agenda. So look in the mirror, reflect on the past, learn from it, and decide how to move forward to repair the damage to the community and make amends. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Kate, is it Manasco? She here? Okay.
She's here. You're one-man band right here.
No, I said bingo. We're doing staff bingo. I haven't won yet. Good evening, Governing Board, President Rooks, Superintendents. So that there is a positive thing coming tonight. At first, can I just say Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all the educators here. Thank you. So I was raised by educators. It's probably not a shock that my dad was a band director. I mean, shocking, apple tree. My mom was actually a language arts teacher, and so I have a poem
that me and AI helped write together. So it's an acrostic. I teach band, so please forgive anything else. But it's a leader poem. Lead with integrity by prioritizing fiscal responsibility and wise stewardship of resources. E, empower decisions that reflect and support the governing board majority. A, advocate for every campus, uplifting all schools to succeed together. D, detach personal political bias to ensure fair, student-centered leadership. E, engage collaboratively with community partners, including law enforcement, to support safety and trust, especially with our students. And finally, R, remain accountable, transparent, and focused on the greater good. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Sharon Benson.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and superintendency, as well as all the guests. I will ditto teachers. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. I'm here tonight in support of Heather Rooks because when Heather was elected, as the rest of you were, you did not forfeit your rights to speak. You didn't forfeit your First Amendment entitlements. What I heard was that Heather spoke in her capacity as a mom and as a community member, concerned not with the fact that the district is dealing with the sexual abuse allegations of the two teachers at Centennial High, but rather that she's concerned that the mandated reporting law 13-3620 was not abided by. It's a 200-page police report. I have not yet read it. It's going to be my weekend Mother's Day gift to myself. That's the issue here tonight. I've heard you say politics need to be set aside, but to me, this whole meeting is a political show. The fact that you have a superintendent who is on his way out that clearly, just from my perspective, does not like perhaps being held accountable to conservative values and rising above things that are inappropriate to do with children. If I find it...
I'm sorry, Ms. Benson. If everyone can please refrain, we are respecting everybody's right to speak at that podium.
Point of order. We need to stop talking because we can't hear what she's saying, and that's disrespectful.
If you continue to speak, you will be escorted out by our officer. You may continue.
I believe we are here to speak about the idea that Heather Rooks needs to be replaced as president. Background information, therefore, is important. It is inappropriate actually inappropriate to think and to assume that the two teachers who have been dismissed from Peoria, at least a year they were at their shenanigans with young boys. To actually believe that no adult on that campus, including your principal, knew nothing about it and didn't report it, I find that pushes the limits of credibility and believability. Your job as board members is to protect every single child in this district. Your responsibility as teachers, as parents, it's not just a legal obligation, it is a moral obligation. And a country that cannot protect their children is a country that is on its way downhill. So I am in support of retaining Heather Rooks, who courageously used her First Amendment right to speak out. And last I looked, the First Amendment overrides any board policy.
Time. Thank you. Next public comment comes from Michael, is it Baca?
My name is Michael Baca. I'm a proud parent of a current Centennial High School student and two graduates, actually. I want to speak specifically about the timing of tonight's actions and the responsibility of the governing board. As a board, you're responsible for setting direction, which you guys have said, adopting policies, ensuring accountability for district leadership, and conducting the public's business with transparency. Those are not optional. They are the foundation of the public trust. Your own policies describe this board as the agent of the public responsible for the governance and direction of this district, and establish that the superintendent is actually accountable to you for all district functions. Right now, there are serious questions in this district around student safety, mandatory reporting, and whether concerns are being handled properly. At the same time, the current board president has called for further investigation into those issues. And today, we are here discussing a change in board leadership. From a parent's perspective, mine, the timing raises concern. It creates the appearance that leadership is being changed at the exact moment when oversight and accountability are being requested. Whether that is the intent or not, it directly impacts public trust, because one of your core responsibilities is to ensure accountability and not to diminish it. If this leadership change is unrelated to the request for an investigation, which it certainly sounds like it might not be, then please, boards, clearly state that and reaffirm your commitment to a full independent review, which has been tabled. Reaffirm your commitment to the safety of the children under your care. Reaffirm your commitment to holding the leaders in your organization responsible for the conduct in which they hold themselves to and how they present themselves to our students and our children. Regardless of who holds the position of board president, your responsibility as a board has not changed. You're responsible for ensuring those policies are enforced, especially those tied to student safety and mandatory reporting. That they're not just written, but understood, followed, and enforced by the leadership in this district. I've heard many parents and adults in this room talk about leadership, expressing the desire to hold the president accountable. I don't have enough information to speak to that, but what I will say is the miss here that if she is accountable, then so are you. If she's accountable, then so is the superintendent. If he's accountable, then so is the principal. Okay, I've only heard of 2 individuals being held accountable for this, despite the fact that some form of an environment has been allowed to foster that had this happen. You're responsible for holding this district accountable. You're responsible for the conduct and the way this happens. In closing,
I apologize. Thank you. Next public comment comes from Jody Brackett.
Board, President. Thank you, Heather, first, for always hearing everyone's voice. I am shocked and appalled how and why this is even an issue, to punish a person who wants to get to the bottom of this abuse of children, period. Whoever votes Heather out of this position, shame on you. At least Heather will sleep at night knowing she is on the kids' side, not the institution's. For once, there has been a positive change since Heather has been president and is always looking out for kids' safety and success. This is obviously an opportunity for certain people to gain the president's seat and the teachers' union to kick out Heather. Also, the reason parents has taken out their kids out of public schools has nothing to do with Heather. It's actually because what is happening tonight and the repeated sexualization and other serious issues that has been happening and nothing gets done. Heather needs to stay as president to clean up these major issues that has never been addressed. Enough is enough. Trina, this controversy that has not happened like you had mentioned, like this, is because these issues get swept under the rug. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Mike Cross. Point of order, please refrain from speaking when we are having public comment.
Good. All right. Good evening, President Rooks and members of the board. I am here tonight as a parent and constituent who cares deeply about the direction of our schools and the leadership guiding them. Our community has spoken clearly through the ballot box about the kind of priorities we expect from this governing board. Those priorities are not vague. They are rooted in accountability, transparency, student safety, and commitment to academic excellence above all else. When voters choose leaders, they are not just selecting individuals. They are endorsing vision. That vision includes strong oversight, responsible decision-making, and a willingness to stand firm in the face of pressure when it comes to doing what is best for students. It also includes something just as important, the ability of elected leaders to work together as a unified body to deliver on promises they made. Strong leadership at the board level is essential to maintaining that vision. A board president should reflect the priorities of the community, provide steady direction, and ensure the discussions remain focused on outcomes for students rather than distractions. Stability in leadership matters. Consistency matters. As leadership that aligns with expectations of voters matters. President Rooks embodies all of these qualities. Disagreements are inevitable in any governing board, but there is a difference between healthy debate and actions that undermine stability and trust. When internal conflict becomes the focus, it distracts from the real mission, serving students and supporting their success. Our expectations as constituents is simple: work together, respect the will of the voters, and stay focused on outcomes rather than internal divisions. To our educators and staff, I want to be equally clear. We value the work you do every day. Teaching is one of the most important professions in our society. With that respect, however, comes an expectation. Families send children to school to gain the foundational skills they need to succeed: reading, writing, mathematics. Those core competencies are building blocks of every future opportunity. Classrooms should remain focused on helping students master those essentials in safe, structured, and supportive environment, and nothing beyond that. At the end of the day, this is about trust. Trust between families and schools, trust between the community and its elected leaders, and trust that the focus remain where it belongs, on students, their safety, and their success. President Rooks embodies these values, and that is why we voted for her. The decision will speak volumes to your constituents whether the voice is being honored. I urge you to act in a way that reflects the leadership, consistency, and priorities this community expects and deserves by keeping President Rooks as Peoria Unified Board President. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Jennifer C.
President Rooks, Clerk Proudfit, members of the board, Dr. Summers, Dr. Leducer, Cabinet, and community. Mr. Tobey listed 6 independent entities that have investigated or are investigating the situation around Centennial High School and the issues of mandatory reporting. These entities included Peoria Police Department, Arizona Department of Education, Title IX, our own HR department, the county attorney, and the board's attorney. Mr. Tobey stated, in short, this could be another attempt that could potentially jeopardize what the county attorney is going with. I agree with his questions. Echoing the feedback of Attorney Mrs. Siegel, why would we take away a tool that could allow them to pursue future investigations and interfere with their process? The district cannot compel witnesses or victims to comply or testify in yet another investigation, but the county attorney does. Last week, and as of this moment, there is no evidence of any failure to report made by any district employee by 6 independent entities. And because there is an ongoing investigation into the actions of 2 teachers who have allegedly crossed gross lines of conduct, violating our students in unimaginable ways, if something was missed in any of the 6 investigations that have taken or are taking place to date, opportunities to address that evidence may still come to light. I support the board's 3-2 decision to table yet another investigation while others continue. Not because I or anybody else in this room wants to protect an institution, as President Rooks suggested, of educators, parents, community members, but because sexual abuse investigations are a long and arduous process, and we want to let the professionals already investigating and building a case to have the space to do and finish their jobs successfully. When we were fostering, we learned that for every 100 reported incidences of sexual abuse, 4 make it to trial and 1 ends in conviction. This matters. They can take years dotting every I and crossing every T to gather evidence needed to obtain proper justice before a jury. Or as Ms. Proudfoot put it, to throw the book at predators. When the decision was made to go to the media and draw not only local and national attention, but international attention to this case, did anyone consider how that kind of attention or pressure might impact victims coming forward who don't want the attention or to be identified as the kid who? The selfish actions of one board member potentially interfered with the whole case, a future trial, and a conviction when they broke the board's decision and violated policy 1-102. I believe Mr. Tobey's word of caution alluded to this. And for this reason, I encourage the board to vote for a change in leadership tonight,
Your time is up.
appointing Mrs. Proudfoot as president and Mr. Tobey or Mrs. Ewing as clerk.
Next public comment.
Point of order, President Rooks. I don't know who in the room has more authority than the president up here, but the clapping has to stop. And we've asked you, what, 4 times? So please stop.
Next public comment comes from Valerie Fleming.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Valerie Fleming. I've been a member of the community since 2002 as a student and now as a parent and educator. I'm going to speak very plainly. This is about leadership and the cost of getting it wrong. Where was I during the board meetings about Beckham Berlocka? I was at home because I trusted the board's wisdom to handle the 2 in question with appropriate justice, and they did. And we trust the Peoria PD to do due diligence in their case. Tonight, I am here because not to support those 2 teachers in question, as their behavior is unquestionably not acceptable, but because our president continues to behave as an individual citizen while serving on a council as a unified entity. Your repeated actions have set a precedent that policy and law are optional. Since taking office in January of 2023, actions tied to Board President Rooks have cost this district at least $218,000 in taxpayer-funded legal fees from a lawsuit she filed the same year and lost. That $218,000 may not close a deficit, but it represents staff, resources, and support that we are now being told we cannot afford. Additionally, the district paid a settlement in an undisclosed sum in July 2025 due to her misuse of social media in 2022, as well as district-paid legal defense. Today, we have a separate current case involving gross misconduct, of which did not receive the same level of concern or attention from her as the situation in 2022. The contrast raises serious concerns about priorities and accountability. A board president's role is to reduce liability, protect the district, and lead with integrity, not create conflict, assign blame on public platforms, or use the position to elevate separate political campaigns. For our students, our educators, and community deserve stability and leadership that serves this district, not repeatedly undermining it at every opportunity available. I'm calling for accountability, including a change in presidential leadership, because our hardworking taxpayers should not be expected to absorb the cost of preventable decisions without accountability and consequences. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Mia.
Good evening. I'm going to speak fast because this comment is long. Hello, I have been in communication with the main victim's grandma. She could not be here tonight, but gave me permission to relay any info that we've spoken about. These are the things that she has expressed to me in her words. She wants all parties held accountable, the disgusting teachers, Haley Beck and Angela Berlocka, who committed the crimes, and anyone who knew but didn't report. Because of that, she absolutely wants to see Heather Rooks remain as board president and is thankful that she is trying to hold these people accountable. She is extremely upset that the Centennial principal and assistant principals knew on February 21st, 2025, when they received the email from a former student outlining the grooming behaviors happening with her grandson. That was 5 months before she contacted police. Then again, when the Peoria High School principal approached him Again, before she had reported it to police. And again, nothing was reported when it should have been reported right then and there. The coaches knew, but said nothing to protect her grandson. This is a serious issue for their family, and for people to want to sweep this under the rug and not hold mandated reporters accountable is despicable. He missed 121 class periods in school, but nobody cared. They only cared that he was ready to play. He missed school because everyone was talking about him and the abuse at school, yet nobody did anything. She wants an unbiased third-party investigation into the mandated reporting failures right now, especially because the school district attorneys told her that the only person who could get the Title IX investigation is her grandson, and that her grandson would have to sign an NDA and can't discuss it with anyone in order to view it. She believes that everyone is in it to protect the district and staff. She's pissed that now the board is trying to protect the very people who were supposed to protect her grandson and didn't. Keep Heather Rooks as board president. Thank you.
Next public comment comes from Emily.
Good evening to the board and cabinet and community. As of late, President Rook's behaviors have demonstrated that she is no longer fit to serve as the president of PUSD's governing board. I am deeply concerned that President Rook's political ambitions are influencing her decisions and behaviors, promoting personal gain over the well-being of students and families. During the April 23, 2026 governing board meeting, President Rooks abstained from voting to adopt a resolution ordering and calling a special budget override election to be held in November 2026. This is troubling for a few different reasons, which leads me to believe her political campaign is impacting her decisions. President Rooks appeared to support moving forward with the November 2026 override for the district as little as 2 months ago. I'm unsure what happened between the beginning of the year and now. However, we know how devastating the current cuts have been to PUSD and the dire consequences of what future cuts may mean to the district. I cannot fathom how the president of the governing board would not fully support calling for a special override, given the fact that the district has had to cut $21 million to its budget, which has had and will continue to have significant impacts on our students and families. It appears President Rook wants to run public education into the ground, and her abstention from voting to support the override clearly demonstrates that she does not have the best interests of students, staff, and families in mind, and is not fit to continue in her role. President Rooks is in violation of number 14 of Procedure 1-102.01.A, Role of Board Member Ethics, and I encourage the board to elect a new leader. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment, so I will open the floor for discussion. Mrs. Ewing? We also have our board legal counsel, Susan Siegel, here. I believe you requested to have her here as well, so we do have her as well.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Siegel, I wanted to have you here first to give legitimacy to us being able to call this meeting in such a different circumstances than all of our other meetings were called, and then also to help us board members keep us in line on speaking on the agendized items and not going outside of what legally we can discuss. So that's why I wanted you here. So if you can you please describe by our policies what allows us to have this meeting called? Thank you.
Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, Mrs. Ewing, good evening. I'm Susan Siegel, your board attorney. I have done some research. You have a copy of a memo. It outlines the policies that apply, and specifically in Chapter 1 of your policies, there is a provision in a regulation, actually, that says 2 or more board members can ask for an agenda item to be put on the agenda. Neither statute nor the policy addresses calling for a special meeting. However, one can imply from the intent that 2 board members can have an action item. Therefore, one can imply that that means to allow a minority of the board 2 board members out of 5 to call for a special meeting. It's my conclusion that while it's not specifically allowed nor specifically forbidden, it can happen, a special board meeting can happen through 2 board members calling for a special meeting. This is supported by your plain old statutory interpretation, as well as I've consulted just to make sure, because this was such a vital question for this district, with 4 other attorneys, including the drafter of the board policy and regulation at issue. And they all agree that the better answer is that there is authority to hold this meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's important that we give clarity to the community as to why I can't speak for Ms. Proudfit, but why I sent the email and called for this special meeting. So I brought this request forward because the board president's recent actions and media statements undermined the credibility and integrity of the board, the district, the Peoria Police Department, and the investigative process in this matter and going forward. She is advancing a narrative based on belief rather than evidence, despite her direct knowledge of interviews, investigative steps, and findings discussed in multiple executive sessions. By leveraging her role in public remarks, including "I am also a board president," to give that narrative credibility, she misrepresents the board and the findings, creates confusion, and jeopardizes the integrity of investigative actions. She is positioning herself as the investigator, judge, and jury and trying to influence investigative outcomes based on her beliefs, narrative, and by media pressure. Accountability requires evidence, credible and fair processes conducted by experts. Placing blame without evidence. If our systems did not surface issues early enough, that is a governance responsibility to strengthen those systems, not to assign blame without evidence or use public pressure to influence investigations or outcomes. Policies and due process do not allow discipline, employee discipline, without evidence. And the board should speak with one voice when any member publicly undermines established process or investigative finding. The board needs to decide if this is the type of leadership needed at that time. And that leads me to the agenda item. Right now, we have to decide what is the type of leadership that is needed right now. Our priorities require the board to stay focused on student learning and safety and to deliver swift, high-stakes change through a credible system. We cannot afford, meaning the board, any loss of trust, credibility, or integrity. The question is, what leadership do we need right now? We need a board president and leadership that can govern through board and district processes grounded in policy, procedure, and law. We need to ensure accountability through evidence-based action and due process. We need to continue to monitor and improve the system continuously to strengthen student safety, learning, and teaching outcomes. We need to have a board leader that will help us to take board actions that protect the integrity of investigations and decision. And we need to build collaborative, trust-based relationships and restore trust-based relationships with investigative authorities and staff. This will require a board president who can manage current repercussions, with concerns with regards to student safety and investigative credibility, and district transitions that we have coming up, while keeping us on track to meet or exceed academic KPIs amid budget pressures, enrollment stabilization needs, and facility efficiencies demands. This board needs to decide who can lead us based upon those criteria. Thank you.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Thank you all for being here this evening. Having a full boardroom is good. it brings the community together, and we want to hear all of the voices. And I want to be very clear that the response in calling for this meeting was due to an ongoing pattern of behavior, but also a very large request from the community. I don't think I've received more emails than I have about this issue in anything since I have been on the board. I have noticed a pattern of systematic leadership failures. We have multiple critical issues facing our district, and we need to have leadership that is committed to moving the district forward. Leadership needs to be remaining focused on all kids and the district as a whole. In regards to Centennial High School, we have had multiple executive sessions where we were briefed by police, internal investigators, HR, and our board attorney. I have concerns about the use of district resources for any one board member's individual gain. In addition, in the series of interviews, there was misstated evidence that I just want to take this opportunity to clear up, but it led people to believe that the email in question that was sent to Scott Hollabaugh, the principal, indicated that there was sexual activity with students, and it emphatically did not. I was contacted today by another news source letting me know that I am now being accused of being part of the cover-up because I am standing behind Peoria PD, ADE, our internal investigators, legal counsel who is an expert in educational law, and also the Maricopa County Attorney General. So I'll just read you the comment that I gave back to AZ Central, and for the media that is here, I'm just letting you know this is my comment. This is what I'm saying. Beyond this boardroom, I will not be commenting further on this. Mrs. Rooks and I had a conversation where we discussed some of the videos surfacing on TikTok, as I'm sure you all have seen. As board members, we needed to seek additional clarity and information about rumors circulating in our community. Mrs. Rooks initiated an agenda item for the discussion to take place with our lawyer and with the rest of board members. Based upon the legal advice of our counsel and also the verified facts of the case, I did not feel that it was appropriate to spend district funds on a third-party investigation while the ongoing criminal investigation was still open. Since that meeting, it has become clear that Mrs. Rooks is convinced, despite factual evidence from ADE, legal counsel, Peoria PD, PUSD's HR department, that Centennial admin are somehow responsible. She made that very clear in the interviews that have followed. To hear that she is now claiming that I am covering up for them is extremely disappointing and is one of the many examples that facilitated the need for tonight's board meeting. And I want to say, I don't want this to turn into, let's say everything. Heather is an extremely passionate person with a lot of courage, and she has the children's best interest at heart. I know she does. Sometimes being responsive to things on media can cause damage. And while I would literally fight to the death for someone's right for free speech, we all have a right to free speech, but we don't all have a right to sit on a board or to lead a board when there's loss of confidence. And so I continue to support Mrs. Rooks as a board member, but I feel that it is time to change up leadership, as is healthy for any organization to lead us through the needs of the district currently.
Mrs. Bowles?
First, I just want to say, Heather, President Rooks, I'm very sorry that you have to sit up here and put up with this. Constituents, they're not in the room. We know that. The community members, most of which are not even in our community, they're flooding our email. That is, I'll about to address that.
Point of order. Please refrain from making comments when we're having a discussion.
But I'm sorry that you have to go through this tonight, but I respect you greater tonight than I ever have, because some would have run from this, but that's not the person you are. And that's why I'm up here. So thank you, and I'm sorry. If some of you guys have been reading the headlines, Centennial's not the only thing in the headlines. Peoria public schools have a sexual abuse crisis. Let me tell you why. This has just been in the last week, not the crisis, but the data that has come out. How many children will suffer sexual misconduct this year? 5.7 million children are violated annually. 5 million children violated annually in our public school system by trusted adults. I'm very angry, if you can't tell, and I'm trying to calm down because I want to make sure that I'm very clear in what I say. We shouldn't be up here, first off. The father that stood up here and said we should be concerned that we're talking more about a woman who's standing up for an investigation when we have known pedophiles in our district and kids that are violated and some that we don't even know of yet. Some I think are going to come out tonight. I don't even know what to say to that. I really don't. That infuriates me. So 5 million children are violated annually in our public schools. That's enough to populate one state in the United States. We should be freaking appalled by that. We should be flooding boardrooms because of that. Not to get a president off a board. Are you freaking kidding me? A few days ago, there was a lawsuit. Well, I'm sorry, I missed a very important point. This article, this data that came from California, and actually at 1:30 this afternoon, I got a report from our U.S. Department of Education that I'm about to tell you about as well. 5.7 million children are violated annually, and in the midst of that, teachers' unions, hear me say teachers' unions, nationally oppose mandated reporting. That's a fact. A few days ago, a lawsuit, the very first one in our nation, so keep in mind what I just said, 5.7 million. The very first lawsuit, some of us have been in education for 30 years. The very first lawsuit that first was brought to court for not mandated reporting, and the first one that was ever won, that they won the lawsuit. While I'm ecstatic that that's happening, it makes me sick to my stomach to think that we've had that amount of kids that, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this straight up, like I've said in every crowd I've been in, every woman in this building knows the pervert high school teacher that they needed to avoid. This is not a new problem, and some men in here do know that there was a high school pervert. It's not a new problem. I think we've protected an occupation so much that, you know, why wouldn't they come here? We know that pedophiles hang out in kids' arenas, right? But a few days ago, this was our first in our nation. It was in LA, Unified School District. Now it's being federally investigated. That's the report that I pulled off at 1:30 this afternoon. Thank God it's being investigated with federal courts because we need to get Title IX right. It is supposed to be for the protection of really women, but also the victim. The LAUSD is now under federal investigation because, according to their own staff, the district is protecting predators. Parents have spoken tonight, and the timing of removing board president tonight is very concerning, as it should be. First, let me say I think this meeting has absolutely no grounds, and I am completely disappointed in the decision of nominating our current board clerk, Becky Proudfit, for bringing this meeting forward. The emails that we've gotten, I don't support. So I just want that to be very, very clear. I'm regretting the decision of actually nominating our board clerk. I don't think we would be here tonight if that was not the case. But let me address some of the concerns that, because Ms. Proudfit and Melissa are the reasons that I'll go into more detail of why we're in the room, but they called this meeting. So the concerns that, they're not all the concerns, I'll straight up say that, but the ones I saw the most of, number one, I'm not a cussing person, I really am not, but I swear to God, I'm right on the edge. The district monies was the number one concern of all y'all in the room. I only answered one email because I've learned to, keep your mouth shut if you don't have something good to say. However, you tell me, how much money is too much money when you need to keep 5.7 million children protected from public school pedophiles, sex crimes, and grooming against children? I don't have a number on that. Sorry, I can't tell you that. That's too much money to spend. Are you freaking kidding me? Maybe you don't have children. Maybe that's, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Yes, I am upset about that. Rebecca, you and Melissa called this meeting. Let me address some other concerns while we're on the dais, because we can't do that out in the public. Ms. Provitt, you had said, and I quote, anytime any board member, including yourself, or myself, because I'm quoting you, is in a direct violation of a policy and statute and an overwhelming call of the public, I will welcome the request. That sounds very noble. Let me break that down. First, Rebecca, you both, Melissa and Rebecca, violated open meeting law so many times up here on this dais and in the community, I've lost count, including last week and even today. If we called a meeting for every number of times you and Melissa have broken open meeting law, we would never leave the boardroom. Second, Ms. Proudfit, let me address the overwhelming amount of community members. By overwhelming amount of community members, I'm sure most of which are in the room, I'm sure you are referring to the exact same ones that I had in my email. And the quote you quoted, I'm sorry, I'm quoting you again, Ms. Proudfit, the pressure of overwhelming amount of community members that you have been subject to, I have been as well. Actually, let me clarify that. The overwhelming community pressure, as you see here tonight, are not parents of, or even staff. By the way, I just have to say one thing, and I'm not supposed to directly say this to you, but the teacher that stood there, that took a lot of courage. That took a lot of courage to hold your colleagues accountable. I know how much courage that takes. The good teachers, they don't come to board meetings and they don't fight. They hear from their students. I heard it all the time, all the time, all the time.
Point of order. Please refrain.
Oh, wait.
Please refrain, or we will have everyone exited if we need to recess so that we can respect each board member's right to speak.
President Rooks, I just want to make sure, I'm going to look over to Mrs. Siegel, that we're staying in line with the agendized item.
Well, since you brought it forward, Mrs. Ewing, to basically judge my actions based on whatever I did, I believe that we are, because that's the reason why you brought it forward, was to judge my actions. So she is speaking to those actions that you are talking about bringing forward.
The overwhelming...
President Rooks, I was referring to our legal, since that's why we have her here. So thank you.
The overwhelming community pressure that you're referring to, Ms. Proudfit, is union pressure, the same as what we're seeing in the room. The exact same union that affiliates with those who call parents Nazis in 2020, if we forget, lest we forget. The same teachers' unions that nationally oppose mandated reporting, and the same organizations such as the National Teachers Association, who encouraged and funded student and teacher walkout protest to protest the current administration and our president. I'm all for protesting, but you made it about our children. And in addition, since our public schools, and you've heard me say this and I'm going to keep saying it, since our public school districts are sustained and funded by children in seats, I'd like to see how, if we need to give back a percentage of money, since ADE has given us money for kids in seats and kids have...
Point of order, I just want to make sure that we are maintaining to the agendized item, which is call to the public discussion and
Melissa,
public action to...
I am addressing the issues in the community that you guys are bringing.
Mrs. Bowles, let me turn to Mrs. Siegel.
Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, please, I think you're starting to veer off of the topic. The topic is whether there should be an election and what the election outcomes should be and your reasons for that.
I'm discussing, Ms. Siegel, the reasons for that have been in the community. That's what I'm going over.
All right. Thank you. Just be careful.
I will. Thank you. Maybe we should give back a percentage of it to ADE, since we have kids protesting and not in school, and we're not teaching, and we're paying for subs on what I would refer to no pay May Day, which was May 1st. I know this meeting has nothing to do with making decisions or policies or future agenda items, but I would like to know, Dr. Summers, and at a later date, probably when we meet again, you know, how many teachers and students were out on May 1st. Deciding on furlough days becomes less challenging when teachers opt to get substitutes and add more expense to the district. So another issue, Ms. Proudfit, appears to show that the community members you're referring to, actually a handful of union members who rallied together, as we see here, a handful of other union members, and some parents and teachers and district and community, and I know that as well, to put pressure on school board. It seems to rally together to put pressure on a school board to call a meeting whose sole purpose was to silence a Peoria mom and our board member, president. If I didn't know better, I would say this appears to be a witch hunt of sorts to silence a Peoria mom. Rebecca, you also said by Heather going to the media, she further opened a conversation that now needs to be had in public. So all the facts can be out. What facts? You heard the same facts that I heard, or maybe you didn't. Facts such as our board attorney stating that Rachel Mitchell clearly had no issue with the board doing an outside investigation since her focus was on the pedophiles and not the mandated reporting. Like you or I, Rebecca, Heather did not give up her rights, as someone said tonight, as a parent when she became a board member. I actually think this is literally what sets her apart as the Peoria mom. She's not a teacher, not a business owner, or any other title she holds that has nothing to do with tonight's agenda or anything else for that matter. So it seems to boil down to a few unanswered questions. Did President Rooks share anything confidential that only the board was privy to? The answer is no. Did she, I'll wait till the whispering stops. Did she use her board position to voice her concerns? The answer is no. Ms. Proudfit, you stated that President Rooks, quote, went against the board's decision, and she did not. In fact, she agreed that the board's conclusion to provided that Rachel Mitchell conducts a thorough investigation. Ms. Mitchell has the authority to go after pedophiles, thank God. We don't as a board, but she doesn't have the authority she does not have the authority in mandated reporting violations. Melissa and Becky, no matter how tonight's meeting is interpreted, it is clear you were used by the union and their affiliations to advance their point of removing our board president for speaking out as a Peoria mom. As long as I serve on this board, I will not allow the union or anyone else to pressure me or distort the truth to push their agenda. I am accountable to my constituents, not to them. I think the real question for me is, are the parents groups, the unions, the teachers associations, much of which all are in this room, trying to unseat a school board president who is simply standing up for children and voicing her concerns around mandated reporting? 5.7 million children annually are affected by pedophile sexual exploitation. Do you understand that? You know, I can't wrap my brain around this. The things that these students have gone through just in this situation, those videos are all over. They'll never come back. They'll always be out there. When they have children, there's going to be a moment when some of them have children and say, oh my God, what did they do to me? I'll let you live with that. I think the real question for me here is the parent groups in the room and online, and the union and the Teachers Association trying to unseat a school board president who is simply standing up for children and voicing her concerns around mandated reporting as a Peoria mom. The answer is yes. Ms. Proudfit, you stated that the same way we hold our teachers to a high standard on social media, even if they are not disclosing that they are a teacher. Okay. I am so confused by this statement, since the board clearly has little or nothing to do with making that decision. I think somebody read the board authority that we have. We don't have authority to discipline a teacher. The superintendent does. I mean, apparently it's okay for a mom that can share a TikTok video displaying oral sex in her son to be sitting beside her and talking about sexual explicit acts, using the F word and other disgusting, I said disgusting, I was going to say something else, descriptive words to describe that whatever they were doing. I haven't seen the video, no, or TikTok video. I have no intention on seeing it. I don't need to subject myself to that. But if you are a Peoria mom stating your concerns in the media about mandated reporting, known pedophilia, we all are admitting that finally, and reaching out to our county attorney is somehow breaking the law, breaking policy, and violating statute, I'd like to see how. Because there isn't any. In my opinion, we are here tonight to address a matter that goes to the heart of our responsibility as a school district, mandated reporting and the circumstances under which an outside investigation is required. When concern arises involving the safety or well-being of a child, 5.7 million annually. The law is clear, and our duty is even clearer. Mandated reporting, when we are trying to protect 5.7 million children, is not optional. It is discretionary, and it is not something we, quote, wait to see about. It is an immediate, non-negotiable obligation. Equally important is understanding when a situation requires the involvement of an internal investigative body, when conduct allegations or evidence fall outside the scope of what a school district can or should investigate internally, we are legally and ethically required to bring the appropriate outside authorities. This ensures transparency, protects integrity of the process, like some have quoted, and most importantly, protects 5.7 million children annually. To my board members tonight, I want to speak to a principle that is anchored in this country since its founding. The belief that representative bodies function best when every elected voice is allowed to speak freely. This is bigger than any single vote or disagreement. It's about the precedent we set when we decide whose voice is acceptable or whose is not. If we start sidelining or silencing a board member or removing them from a position simply because their perspective challenges the majority, then we are abandoning the very idea of accountable representative governance. Each of us was elected by our community not to fall in line, not to rubber stamp decisions, but to bring forward the concerns and values and convictions of the people who put us here. Some may question a colleague's motives or priorities. That's politics. But using it as justification to suppress a voice or take them out of leadership, it is centralizing power in a way that runs counter to the principles of transparency and local control. To my constituents and the families and children who depend on this district every single day, you deserve a board that protects and answers you. Not outside pressure, not answering to unions and special interests, and not any group that seeks to berate or bully or narrow who gets to participate in decision making. when we are seeking an attempt to steer the direction of the district by limiting who's allowed to speak and who is allowed to lead, that is just a procedural concern. It's not just a procedural concern, it's a generational one. When unions who nationally oppose mandated reporting are used to control a school district, it reaches directly into our classrooms, our curriculum, the future of our students we are entrusted to protect. As far as I'm concerned, there are two scenarios within our district that I'd like to bring a focus on this evening. You can be your judge, the judge for yourselves, as to what may or may not be happening beneath the surface of why we are here and quite possibly within our own district. Tonight we're having to make a decision based on what some have said, but to me it really comes down to two types of moms in our district. The first mom, a Peoria mom, the one who sits over here, the one who some have believed that she has broken laws, violated policy, or even has violated state statute. And others would argue that no, actually this Peoria mom was simply just speaking out to hold school district employees accountable as a mom, and who are those that are allegedly mandated reporters accountable. But then we have another mom, not just any mom, nope. She's the mom of the pedophile, Haley Beck. She has sexually exploited and violated the TikTok video. If you haven't seen it, your kids probably have. You might be concerned about that. I would be. She has sexually exploited and violated children in one of our district schools, Haley Beck.
Point of order, I just want to make sure we're again staying within the line item of this. Ms. Siegel, can you please?
Yes. Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, Mrs. Ewing, Mrs. Bowles, I believe you're veering off into talking about a personnel matter.
And I could appreciate that. Thank you for that. I will say I am not. We've had public speaking in the podium attacking President Rooks' character, and I want to just compare the two that we have going on in the district right now with her and another mom.
Well, Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, Mrs. Ewing, Mrs. Bowles, the public during public comment doesn't have the strictures that you have with respect to sticking to agenda items.
Right. I'm sorry about that. I did say that wrong. The concerns that I've seen throughout hundreds of emails that we've gotten, I don't need to go into all this. I will just say that one mom has stood there in the podium fighting for her child, her special needs child. The point I'm trying to make is, I don't know if the water's so muddy because there's so much disgusting things on the internet. Like, I don't know. But President Rooks has stood in that podium fighting for her own special needs children, a mom during COVID, because the district forced a mask on him. I've worked with autistic kids, and I'm not going to go down that road, but that is asinine. Stood in that podium, then stood in that podium for other moms. That's how she became known in Peoria. I know some of you might not realize that. Too bad for you, but I have come to know her as a board member before I ever knew her there. And this mom, the Peoria mom, has never wavered in any storm, no matter what is facing her. And she's the real reason we're in the room. She never wavered, she never backed down, she never bent to media pressure or to those trying to intimidate much of what, sort of happens in here that doesn't affect her. or even behind the keyboard, which we see. I don't personally give myself to trolls. I was taught not to listen to trolls, but there's a lot of garbage on the internet. The Peoria mom and our board president doesn't care about status, as those who do not know her falsely claim. If it were not for her own special needs child, she wouldn't have even ran for school board. She would not have recruited board member Jeff Toby and myself to join her up here. Yes, I said she recruited Jeff Toby and myself that are sitting up here tonight. As a board member, I'm responsible for the safety of children, yet I do not even have access to Title IX information. I don't really understand that, but I just needed you to know that as a public. I voted for an outside investigation in this matter because it was clearly stated by our board attorney, again, that Rachel Mitchell, our county attorney, was giving our district the green light to a third-party investigation since her office, now hear me say this because there's a lot of misconception about this, since her office was working only on, and does a very good job at, I will say, working only on the case involving the pedophiles. Our county attorney does not have the authority to hold mandated reporters liable. However, as of today, make sure you write this down, record it so you remember, because there's, again, a lot of misconception out there. Since our board president, Ms. Rooks, filed a complaint with our county attorney, a new investigation has been reopened within our Peoria Police Department. Students, parents, and staff, feel free to call Peoria Police if you have any further information regarding the Centennial High School sexual abuse, including any mandated reporting that needed to happen. Also, students, please hear me say, if any staff pull you aside and tell you not to talk about this case, they are in direct violation with the investigation, and that staff member needs to be reported right away. All reports can be submitted anonymously regarding the allegations of sexual abuse at Centennial High School, and any instance where mandated reporting was ignored should be included as well. All who were victims, and I really apologize, I really wanted that to be first, but I mean, there's really no way to say this. The victims in this, of these disgusting, just appalling things that teachers, 5.7 million children have to go through a year. I am so sorry that you had to go through this in high school. To the victims at Centennial High School. That includes those who were sexually exploited. And that includes those who are still afraid to tell the principal. Yeah, I've got some of those texts and emails, and the police have them. It's hard to not make this personal for me. I'll be honest, and I'm not going to. High school should be a time of making memories and having fun. You're still a kid, not trauma within our public school system by perverted adults. I hear you. I know that some of you have stated you did not want to speak up because no one would listen. Hear me say, as a board member, community member, mom, grandma, Mimi, I'm listening. Report everything. Report everything. Not if you know or think you might know something. That's where the breakdown is. That's where the breakdown's been for years.
Point of order. Again, I just want to make sure we're staying. A lot of what you're saying is very important, but I want to make sure that we are staying in the line of the agenda. And Mrs. Siegel, can you?
Mrs. Siegel, I have 3 little paragraphs, lines left.
Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, Mrs. Ewing, Mrs. Bowles, I appreciate that, but and it is a very important message you have to give, but we have to stay on the agenda.
Mrs. Bowles, would you like to maybe finish one last sentence on it?
Yeah, I'll
just
finish.
Pick one
Sure.
sentence to finish.
I'll end with this. A person, let me say this. Board members, think long and hard about the decision you're about to make. Not only, I've said this before in here, some might not believe me, I'm okay with that. But it's true, and it has gone international. Yep, it has. Probably because we have 5.7 million children annually that are affected by this.
Point of order. I'm sorry, Ms. Bowles. Please refrain from comments. Continue, Ms. Bowles.
Not only the nation is watching, but more importantly, a generation is counting on us to prepare the way for them, not us, for them to, and for us to leave it better than what we were given. I am speechless when I see in front of me more people in the boardroom to get a Peoria mom off the school board for standing up for mandated reporting as a Peoria mom. That's more of a concern than someone mentioned. Teachers at Centennial, 5.7 million across our nation. Our boardrooms should be packed every night, not to get a board president off or down from her seat because of speaking out as a Peoria mom. Thank you.
Mr. Tobey?
Our topic of discussion tonight, I mean, it's a very hard topic to talk about. Those who don't believe that we fight like family, obviously you've seen to the contrary right now. But in all seriousness, you know, this board is a very important body, and I do believe in its mission. I've campaigned with people up here. I've gone to meetings with pretty much everybody on this board. You guys have met my family, I've met yours, we've been to each other's houses. Like, there's a relationship on this board that I truly value, and I think that on some level, there is a level of care for everybody on this board. And I also think that in caring and loving one another, it's also about holding each other accountable when we are wrong. And so I'd like to just read my prepared comments. But first, I also want to acknowledge that the situation at Centennial High School is unspeakable. Okay, the betrayed trust placed within the alleged subjects is wrong, absolutely, and they must be held accountable. We've done everything that we can as a district to hold them accountable. The ADE has also pulled their certificates, and they will not be teachers anymore, hopefully anywhere. We chose to pause the independent investigation, like I said last meeting, for very specific reasons. And as somebody who, I've been a mandated reporter the last 20 years, right? Criminal justice is my sphere. And as a dad of 4 children in the district, if I thought for a second, knowing and seeing all the evidence that one of our employees, doesn't matter who it is, put something aside, pushed it under the rug, or any of that, I would be the first to walk them to the door. I'm not going to risk that for any child. If I saw what I recognize as a failure of mandatory reporting, it wouldn't slide with me. Having done investigations, both criminal and internal investigations, I've learned and experienced the hard way that parallel investigations can unintentionally interfere with one another. And that's why I said what I said in the last meeting. So when I saw the third-party investigation on the agenda, having known the other 6 that have taken place, I felt with a reasonable degree of certainty that we could take a tactical pause and not do anything that might harm or interfere with the county attorney's investigation. This wasn't a no. This wasn't a we will not do it. This is a let's wait and see what more evidence comes to light. Just this past week, Rachel Mitchell's office released a media statement during a press conference saying that there had in fact been an additional witness that came forward that needed to be interviewed before she could even make a decision on her charging. What if we went forward with the internal investigation by a third party and got a hold of that witness before the county attorney? Would we be risking having that witness impeached in a criminal trial because there's the slightest variation of testimony? I don't want to give any alleged pedophile any chance or upper hand in trial. And that was the whole intention behind why I said what I said. We all want justice. We all want it done right, but not rushed and not on our own timeline. That being said, I was disappointed that after the board meeting and our vote to pause the third-party investigation, Mrs. Rooks chose to move forward independently. She gave a media interview and made additional criminal referrals against our administrators, including for the very first time, our own superintendent. Statements such as, quote, "A student reached out and nothing was done." Quote, "There were clear and repeated indicators of grooming behavior." And quote, "There were red flags everywhere," were and are inaccurate. And it's causing real harm to the named individuals and to our district. Those are her opinions, and those are how she feels. I support free speech. I do support, I've spoken independently as an individual person to the media while being a sitting board member. This is not the issue. The issue is the factual nature of what was said. I also believe that we have to lead with facts. We must lead with facts over feelings. The facts of the situation do not support Mrs. Rooks' line of thinking. Inserting ourselves as board members into investigations is cause for real concern. This isn't the first time this has happened. During a previous investigation at another school, Mrs. Rooks and others on the board voted to return an employee to work before the employee was able to be re-interviewed by HR. Now, in this case, she's advocating for a 7th investigation before the criminal one has even had a chance to be charged. While I may disagree with both decisions, the inconsistency in allowing due process, following the facts, and allowing investigations to run their full course is concerning to me. I'm working currently with our board attorney and our cabinet to compile a clear, factual timeline so that way the parents and the community have accurate information about what was actually known and when was it known. Greater transparency will help reduce confusion and start to rebuild trust. At the end of the day, we are one board serving one district, one community. The decision before us is not a political one, nor it should be. It's a governance issue. It's a leadership issue, which should prioritize due process and decisions grounded firmly in the facts. I remain fully committed to working together in good faith with every member of this board and to keep our children's safety and well-being at the center of everything that we do. And with that, I yield.
So first, I'm going to start with some questions. Ms. Susan Siegel, thank you for being here. Since in question with regards to my actions, and there's been mention already of the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, was it correct at the last board meeting with Rachel Mitchell telling you on the phone, you said it out in public out here, that she said that there was no problem with her to have a third-party independent investigation by our board?
Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, let me quote again what she said. She said, "The focus of our investigation now are the two sexual abusers, the two sex abusers. It's not the focus of our investigation on the other issue of mandatory report. So if you want, you can go forward without worrying about that."
Okay, thank you, Ms. Siegel. I just have another general question because I know that this has been brought up as one of our, I guess, investigations. With regards to Title IX investigations, when those occur, just in general across school districts, are those ever available to the public or even to a school board?
Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, we have received another opinion from another lawyer because who is an expert in Title IX. In fact, the district retained one of the, in my opinion, two top experts on Title IX to guide it through the Title IX investigation of what occurred at Centennial High School with the two teachers. And I asked her to readdress in an opinion whether the board could have the Title IX investigation, and she, citing 34 CFR section 106.71 entitled Retaliation, reiterated that that report of the investigation is confidential. The fact finders, the decision makers report, parts of it are in the statement of charges against Haley Beck. If you, all of you have had an opportunity to see that. But as to the investigation report, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. The investigation report, it is not available. It's only available to the complainant, which in this case, it was not technically the child, or I'm sorry, the student, but it was the district, but it becomes, according to Title IX law, the complainant. He becomes the complainant. And also, it was available to Ms. Beck. And the district doesn't have access to it and can't. The closing was Ms. Brantingham said, "I don't see any way that I would feel comfortable advising that the Title IX coordinator, that's the district employee, give board members a copy of the report. They are not part of the Title IX process."
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. I have just one more question, and then I'll move into my comments. Is it, I guess, can any citizen, community member, parent, anyone here in Arizona, Maricopa County, can they file a request to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office for a request or a complaint for any type of investigation to happen?
Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, no one is barred from filing or communicating with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office has its own investigative unit, but basically relies on the local police department for the investigation.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. So I will just quickly move into the comments that I kind of wrote down. So in regards to, I believe it was mentioned, Mr. Tobey, that there was a witness that was brought up by Rachel Mitchell's office. And actually, I was that witness because, as was previously shared at the last board meeting, videos on TikTok, the students are sharing them everywhere. And I had seen 2 videos that brought concern. One of them was a victim that had shared what the teacher had done to him. And so, as a mandated reporter, as a board member, I forwarded it to police, the detective on the case. They had called to have me meet with them today to go over that information that I found on social media. And I will say that they informed me their investigation is still open, and that just because they filed with Maricopa County Attorney's Office on the 2 teachers does not mean that this is over. I will say that I did forward the request for an investigation. I have it here. Each board member has received it. I had written down that it was from concerned parent and taxpayer Heather Rooks. I listed only things that were in the public Peoria police report, things that I saw as a concern, because I'm also a parent in this district. And I wanted to bring that to the attention to see if there was something else that could be missing. I also sent it to the State Board of Education, and there was a news article out there that they reached out then to the State Board of Ed, and they said that they could not comment if there was an investigation happening or not, which is different from the previous comments I've seen in the news stating that there was no violation of mandate reporting. Now their answer has changed in the news. They did get back to me, and they said that they would be conducting the investigation. And Rachel Mitchell's office did get back to me and said they have forwarded my request for an investigation into mandate reporting to the Peoria Police Department. So that was all going on the past week or so. I did have parents reaching out regarding the letter that was sent out by our superintendent. parents that emailed that were upset. There were Centennial parents. There were even Liberty parents. I know that was brought up before by Mr. Toby with the inconsistencies, but the inconsistency that I see is when Peoria High School was in the news for the person that did what he did to students at Peoria High School, and he was recently convicted. The principal of that high school, who's no longer there, was put on admin leave. The wrestling coach at Liberty High School was put on admin leave to conduct investigations into mandate reporting, both employees. When this occurred back in July and August, when this was coming all out, that did not occur. So that stands out to me, the inconsistencies and how the process is actually going. And I had Liberty parents that were very upset. The letter that went out making a stand for one employee but not the other by the district. And that was a concern for me as well. I know it was brought up of other things that I've done, the mission and vision statement. Well, that was a vote by the board, and it was supported by the board to remove the DEI language out of our vision and mission statement, because at the time we had a president who was saying there was executive orders to remove that. And in all my 4 years of being here, I have not seen the teacher association, when something does occur like this with teachers doing what they did to those students at Centennial, I did not ever see a first statement come out in solidarity of calling out that behavior of what they did. It was dead silence. There was no one in the boardroom giving that statement at the time when it happened. And that was, it's been in the news for the last however many months that this came out. But now there's a directive, there's a call to action with the Arizona Education Association to remove me as president, because I went as a parent and taxpayer to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office that anybody can file as a citizen to request an investigation into mandate reporting. The things that I noticed that stand out to me in that police report, there were no other staff members interviewed. There was no fellow coworkers of the two teachers that were interviewed, but was interviewed was parents, students, and all of the interviews, the students were describing the behavior of Haley Beck as weird, flirty, and inappropriate, that she is flirty, fixated on still being in high school. Everyone knows that. Other teachers have questioned her about it. Miss Beck has told them about the teachers questioning her. Another interview of a student stating she has heard things about the high school and things being swept under the rug. She does not know any specifics, but she has heard rumors. She is concerned about there being teachers that act this way. Interview with a parent expressed that Ms. Beck has never been appropriate. She explained Haley never acted like authority and acted as a peer to her students. The students also, in all of those interviews, were saying that the football players were hanging out in Ms. Beck's class. And that is all in the police report. That is your students that were interviewed, sharing what they were seeing. I also saw online, because it's been in the news, and I will address that in a moment, there was a comment, there's two comments that stood out to me. And it's the same student at Centennial, and she wrote on this story, specifically on the news, most of us students didn't speak up because we believed it wasn't our place to. As a witness of Haley Beck and Angela Berlacca's disgusting actions, I didn't say anything to our principal out of fear it would be for nothing, and in reality, it was. Our principal, Scott Halbaugh, failed to take action against these individuals when he was told about their actions. It shouldn't be at the fault of any of the victims because none of our voices were heard. Nobody believes me. You can have a copy. I will leave it with the district, so you can have that. But she also goes on to say, this woman's voice, and it's a video of me, deserves more attention. She's one of the only individuals speaking out about this situation in defense of us students. So many teachers and administrators have tried to silence the situation, and it is an issue that should be recognized and prevented for future students. Regardless or not, that's a student from that high school that is feeling that way. There are multiple students that were interviewed that all felt the same way. That is not okay to me as a mom and as a board member. Are we supposed to ignore that? Are we supposed to ignore those students' interviews? Are we supposed to ignore what was happening? How could they see those things that were going on, but no adults did? That should not rely on our students' shoulders to take on that responsibility. That is supposed to be the adults. So that is why I spoke out as a parent and filed the formal request. And in regards to when this was a third-party investigation independent vote, I know it was mentioned by Ms. Proudfit that I put it on the agenda, but that is not true. As president and the clerk, we worked together to set the agenda with the superintendent. And in that time of meeting and setting that up, she was very adamant on putting this on the agenda as well. She wanted to interview coaches from the football team. She wanted to know what was also going on. And so I'm getting really tired of being the only one that is being accused of putting this on when it is actually somebody else that wanted it on the agenda as well. I will also say what is interesting is when I saw that this was being requested, I did call Becky Proudfit because I was completely shocked. And she told me that she was okay with me filing the request because I have a right as a citizen, but she was not okay with me speaking to the news. So I want to address this directly, what is before us tonight, and the broader implications that this is raising. As an elected board member, I do take my responsibilities seriously, but I am also a mom, a taxpayer, and a member of this community. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution states, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Under longstanding constitutional principles, speech by a citizen on matters of public concern, particularly issues involving student safety, is protected speech. So I engaged in that protected activity. As a private citizen, a parent, and a taxpayer, I made a formal request to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office asking Rachel Mitchell to review whether mandatory reporting laws were properly followed in connection with serious concerns at Centennial High School involving staff members Angela Berlacca and Haley Beck. I also spoke with the media and the public about those concerns. That too is protected speech. From a legal standpoint, when protected speech is followed by an adverse action and there is a causal connection between the two, it raises legitimate First Amendment concerns, including potential retaliation. The action proposed tonight, removal from a leadership position, that seems like an adverse action. If that action is being taken in response to my protected speech on a matter of public concern, children, then it implicates those constitutional protections and warrants careful consideration. The message this sends matters. Because if raising concerns about student safety and legal compliance leads to the removal from leadership, it risks creating a chilling effect, not just for me, but for anyone who would otherwise speak up. I will continue to stand for students, and I stand by what I did for those students in this interview. I will continue to raise concerns when necessary, and I will continue to exercise my rights as both an elected official, but also as a mom and a citizen in this state and in this country. And I conclude my comment.
President Rooks, if I may.
Yes.
I would like, I don't know how to make this motion exactly, so if Ms. Susan would, or someone, like to not move to elect a new governing board president, but to keep Board President Heather Rooks in her position.
Ms. Susan Siegel, is that appropriate? Just want to check to make sure. Or does it need to be just a motion for a new? Okay.
Mrs. Rooks, members of the board, I think the appropriate motion is, as it's listed in the agenda, that for the election of officers.
Are we electing both clerk and president?
I believe there's two.
Yes, there will be a 3.1 and
That,
3.2.
I didn't realize, yeah, we are. I said that wrong. Okay, so I'm just motioning then to elect Heather Rooks as president? Is that what you're saying, Ms. Siegel?
Yeah, yes, you can.
Okay, thank you.
So then you need to make the motion.
I motion to elect or keep President Rooks as board president.
I will second. So as the motion was made by Mrs. Bowles and seconded by myself. And whenever you're ready to run us through a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Profit?
No.
Mr. Toby?
I'd like to explain my vote. All for freedom of speech, 100%. I've said several examples as to why I'm for freedom of speech. However, we've all been in that room. We've all gotten the facts straight from the individuals. And to continually go out and say things that are potentially knowingly inaccurate, I don't think necessarily qualifies. And this is something to where it's deeply troubling for me as somebody who is very integrity conscious. And your words matter, and they have deep impact. And so for that, I say no.
President Rooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
No.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion fails with 3 nays and 2 yeas.
I would like to make a motion to elect Jeff Toby as governing board president.
I will second.
So we have a motion made by Mrs. Proudfit and seconded by Mrs. Ewing. And Azure, whenever you're ready to run us through a voice vote.
President Rooks, could you please restate who the second was made by?
Yes, Mrs. Ewing.
Thank you. Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Mr. Toby?
Yes.
President Rooks?
I'd like to explain my vote. I think this is the wrong way to go about removing someone. I think when you talk about integrity, this does not show integrity by removing somebody for their freedom of speech and fighting for student safety. So with that, I vote no.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
I'd like to explain my vote. As I said when I made my comment, I am regretting the nominations that I made. I have worked with Mr. Toby. In fact, just the other night, we were like, we miss campaigning. He's a good man, and yes, we know our families and everything he described, except he forgot that I did recruit his ex-wife to canvass with me, with all of us, actually. It was a lot of fun, and it's not about enemies, but I have to agree with President Rooks that this is not a way, not only not a way to go about this, but other districts have given their authority over to unions, and they can't get it back. That's a fact in our city, in our state. It's unfortunate that it had to come to this to prove a point, I guess. I don't know, but It's just not going to look good for any of us, and it's moving forward. But I just have to mention again, I don't really know how this looks to the next generation that are watching and waiting for us to get our crap together so that we can move forward and help a generation. So with that, I vote no.
Motion passes with 3 yeas and 2 nays.
President Rooks, if I may.
President Tobey, would you like to continue the meeting?
Thank you. Moving on to 3.2.
Hold on, I had a motion I was making while they were clapping. That's why we don't like you to clap, because we can't hear each other up here.
Ms. Bowles, we cannot motion that's already been done.
No, we're electing 2 officials tonight.
He's moving us on.
Okay, I see, okay.
Would you like to go first?
No.
And then 3.2, call to the public for discussion and possible action to elect a governing board clerk pursuant to ARS 15-321 and governing board policy 1-103. Mrs. Ewing, did you want to go ahead and start?
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have any public comment to this line item.
Thanks. Hey, it's my first day on the job. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm sorry, that was a no, yes, is that correct?
There are no public
Okay,
comments.
thank you. Sorry. I think that we need to, for the board clerk position, it still needs to be somebody who can ensure that board processes are followed, that can also work on bringing this board together in unity, because we do have a lot of big decisions coming forward, and it needs to be an individual who can help bring this board together and to have some continuity. I would like to see Ms. Proudfit remain in the board clerk position, because she does have a relationship with all the board members and can help with that continuity. So that would be my suggestion. And I will yield to let the rest of the board members voice their opinions.
I'm happy to continue, or happy if someone else wants a chance at doing this. I think change in leadership is always healthy, but happy to continue serving at the will of the board.
Mrs. Bowles, go ahead.
I don't have any comment.
Mrs. Rooks?
I don't have any comment either.
President Tobey, if I may.
Go ahead.
I'd like to motion to make Heather Rooks clerk of our board.
I will second.
Okay. Azure, we have a motion made by Mrs. Bowles and a second made by Mrs. Rooks. Whenever you're ready, if you could run us through a vote.
Mrs. Ricks?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mr. Tobey?
No.
Mrs. Ewing?
No.
Mrs. Proudfit?
No.
Motion fails with 3 nays and 2 yeas.
I'd like to motion Janelle Bowles as clerk of the governing board.
I'll second.
Azure, we have a motion by Mrs. Rooks and a second by Mrs. Bowles. If you can run us through a voice vote whenever you're ready.
Mr. Tobey?
Well, I love you dearly, Mrs. Bowles. I have to say no.
I figured you would.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Ricks?
Yes.
Mrs. Proudfit?
No.
Mrs. Ewing?
No.
Motion fails with 3 nays and 2 yeas. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to retain Mrs. Proudfit as the clerk of the board.
I will second.
Okay, Azure, we have a motion by myself and a second by Mrs. Ewing. If you can run us for a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
No.
Mrs. Rooks?
No.
President Toby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes with 3 yeas and 2 nays. Congratulations. Okay, moving on to number 4, adjournment. Just need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I will motion to adjourn.
I will second.
As we have a motion to adjourn by Mrs. Ewing, followed by Clerk Proudfit. If you could run us through a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Proudfit?
Yes.
Mrs. Ewing?
Yes.
Ms. Bowles?
Yes.
Mrs. Rooks?
Yes.
President Toby?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes, 5 yeas. Meeting is adjourned at 8:29 p.m.